Picture yourself standing in the Great Hall of Trondheim, the heart of Viking Norway, where the air is thick with the scent of pine and wool, and the fire's gentle glow casts shadows across the timber walls. It's a winter night, and King Harald Hardrada, a warrior whose name roars through history, is settling onto his elevated bed platform. His servants have banked the central hearth to a soft ember, and heavy woolen curtains are drawn tight against the biting Norwegian cold. His day began before dawn, sword in hand, training with his warriors, followed by hours of council, a feast that filled the hall with laughter, and an evening of saga-telling that stirred the soul. Now, as the hall falls silent and the world outside is swallowed by darkness, Harald prepares for a sleep so deep, so restorative, it fuels the strength and sharpness that make him a legend. Welcome to the human wild, where we're diving into a story that might just change how you see sleep. The Viking elite, kings, jarls, and shield maidens, didn't just rest. They mastered it, crafting a way of life that gave them the kind of sleep we modern folks, with our screens and sleepless nights, can only dream of. This is the Viking Age, from 793 to 1066 CE, a time when Norse longships carved paths across the seas, from the fjords of Scandinavia to the shores of distant lands. But it's not their raids or their craftsmanship we're here to explore. It's something far more intimate, something we all chase but rarely catch: perfect sleep. You might be thinking, Vikings? The axe-wielding, mead-drinking warriors? What could they possibly know about sleep? Well, hold on to your shields, because the evidence, dug from archaeological sites, woven into ancient sagas, and backed by modern sleep science, tells a story of rest so profound it puts our tossing and turning to shame. The Norse elite, from kings like Harald to jarls and their households, slept in a way that aligned perfectly with their bodies, their environment, and the rhythms of nature. Their secret wasn't a single trick but a tapestry of practices. From the way they built their beds to the way they lived their days, all coming together to create sleep that was the stuff of legend. Let's start with Harald's Great Hall, because this is where the magic begins. His bed isn't just a place to crash. It's a sanctuary, raised high to dodge the chilly drafts that creep across the floor, surrounded by thick woolen curtains that block out every whisper of light or cold. This isn't a random setup. It's deliberate, designed to cradle the body and mind in rest. Archaeological digs at places like Jorvik, now modern York, and the Oseberg ship burial give us a glimpse into these sleeping spaces. The Norse elite didn't just throw down a straw mat and call it a night. They invested in their rest, creating environments that modern sleep scientists would call ideal. Dark, quiet, and perfectly tempered, these spaces were built to maximize rest in ways we're only now rediscovering. Harald's day was no walk in the park. Picture him rising before dawn, his breath steaming in the cold as he spars with his warriors, testing his sword and axe. Hours of council follow, where he settles disputes and plans raids, then a midday feast that fills the hall with the scent of roasted venison and barley bread. After a brief rest, more meetings, and finally, an evening of skalds reciting tales of gods and heroes. By the time he climbs into that curtained bed, his body is primed for rest, and the setup ensures it's deep and uninterrupted. This wasn't just luck. It was a system, one that worked because the Vikings understood something we've forgotten: your environment shapes your sleep. Now, let's talk about where these Vikings lived, because geography was a game changer. Scandinavia sits at the edge of the world, where the sun plays tricks with time. In summer, it barely dips below the horizon, bathing the land in a twilight glow the Norse called white nights. In winter, darkness reigns for up to 20 hours a day. You'd think this would throw their sleep into chaos, but the Vikings turned it into a strength. They leaned into these natural cycles, letting their bodies adapt in ways that align perfectly with what we now call chronobiology, the science of our internal clocks. In summer, they slept less but more intensely, using the long days for raids, trade, and building. In winter, they surrendered to longer, deeper rest, letting the darkness guide their rhythms. Imagine Gudrid, the wife of an Icelandic jarl, preparing her household for winter. As the days shorten, She moves the beds closer to the hearth, piles on extra furs, and shifts the family's schedule to earlier bedtimes and later mornings. This isn't just about staying warm, it's about syncing with the seasons. The extended darkness of winter floods the body with melatonin, the sleep hormone, and Gudrid's household leans into it, letting their rest stretch and deepen. Sometimes, they'd experience what she called the double sleep, a long night's rest broken by a quiet waking period for reflection or light tasks before slipping back into slumber. This might sound odd to us, but it's what historians call biphasic sleep, a pattern humans likely followed before artificial light changed everything. The sagas describe people rising in the night to pray or plan, treating it as a natural part of rest, not a flaw. This lifestyle kept the Vikings' internal clocks in perfect harmony with the world around them. While we stick to rigid schedules year-round, blasting our eyes with screen light long after sunset, the Norse let their sleep shift with the seasons. Their melatonin production soared in winter's darkness, giving them sleep so deep it could make a modern insomniac weep. Compare that to our world, where artificial light suppresses melatonin and fragments our rest. The Vikings didn't fight nature, they danced with it, and it gave them a mental edge. Take King Harald Fairhair, who unified Norway in the 9th century. The sagas say he could recall the names and deeds of warriors he'd met only once, a feat tied to the memory consolidation that happens during quality sleep. Modern research confirms this. Deep sleep sharpens cognitive abilities, and the Vikings were nailing it without even trying. The physical setup of their sleep spaces is where things get really clever. Archaeological digs at places like Stong in Iceland show beds layered with straw or heather for insulation, topped with furs and wool that kept you warm but let your body breathe. This wasn't just cozy, it was science before science had a name. Modern studies tell us that a slight drop in core body temperature is key to falling and staying asleep. And the Vikings' bedding, breathable, natural materials made it happen. Compare that to our synthetic sheets and overheated bedrooms, and it's no wonder we're restless. Their beds were placed just right, near the hearth for warmth but far enough to avoid smoke. Those heavy curtains didn't just block cold, they created a cave-like darkness that maximized melatonin production. But sleep wasn't just physical for the Vikings, it was spiritual. They saw the night as a bridge to the divine, especially during the winter solstice, a celebration called Yule. Dreams were messages from gods or ancestors, and kings like Olaf Tryggvason woke with visions that guided their rule. This gave sleep a purpose beyond rest, reducing the anxiety we feel when we can't sleep. Modern psychology says that viewing sleep as meaningful improves its quality. And the Vikings had this figured out, treating the night as a sacred space for the mind and spirit. It's a far cry from our habit of scrolling through phones until we pass out, isn't it? What happened when these Vikings traveled? Did their sleep wisdom hold up on raids or trade missions to lands with different light? The evidence says yes. They carried their habits with them, creating darkened sleeping quarters in foreign halls and sticking to their natural rhythms even in Christian courts. This adaptability is something we can learn from, finding ways to keep our sleep consistent, no matter where life takes us. As we slip into the quiet of the Viking night, we find ourselves in the Great Hall, where the fire's embers glow and a new layer of their sleep story unfolds. The hall is still now, save for the soft crackle of the hearth and the steady breathing of the household. Jarl Sigurd of the Orkney Islands rises quietly, not out of restlessness but because this is how the Norse slept. He adds a log to the fire, pours a small horn of mead, and sits in the stillness, letting his thoughts drift. Maybe he plans tomorrow's shipbuilding or composes a verse for the gods. This moment, this midnight waking between first sleep and second sleep, isn't a flaw, it's a feature, a gift of clarity in the heart of the night. The Vikings called it biphasic sleep, and it was a cornerstone of their rest, one that gave them a mental and physical edge we're only now rediscovering. Sigurd doesn't panic about being awake. There's no reaching for a device or worrying about tomorrow. This is normal, woven into the fabric of Norse life. The sagas are full of these moments. People rising to pray, keep watch, or hold quiet talks, treating the interval as a natural part of the night. The Havamal, a collection of Norse wisdom, hints at this, urging alertness even in rest. Archaeological sites like Hofstad in Iceland show longhouses designed for this, pathways and elevated platforms that let people move without waking others. This wasn't insomnia, it was a rhythm modern science calls biphasic sleep, and it's how humans likely rested before electric lights forced us into a single 8-hour block. Thyra, our shield maiden, stands guard in King Harold's hall, using this midnight waking to check the defenses. The gods grant us clarity between dreams, she tells her younger guards, and she's right. This pause was a time for reflection, planning, or even intimate conversations the busy day didn't allow. The Laxdæla saga describes couples discussing family matters at night, while other texts mention kings receiving messengers or holding private councils. It was a moment of stillness in a world that rarely paused, and it sharpened their minds in ways we're only beginning to understand. Modern neuroscience tells us this wakeful period, when it follows a full sleep cycle, is ideal for memory consolidation and creative problem-solving. It's when the brain makes new connections, solving problems that seemed impossible by day. King Olaf Haraldsson, later Street Olaf, was known for announcing solutions to tricky disputes in the morning, as if the night had worked its magic. The sagas are packed with these stories, and they're not just tales, they're evidence of how biphasic sleep fueled Viking ingenuity. During that first sleep, they likely got a heavy dose of slow-wave sleep, the deep phase that repairs the body. The second sleep leaned toward REM, the dream-filled phase tied to emotional processing and creativity. This balance optimized both recovery and insight, something our modern sleep often misses. The Norse saw dreams as more than random images. They were messages from the divine. The Heimskringla tells of kings waking with prophetic visions, and that midnight waking gave them a chance to hold onto those dreams, to ponder their meaning before they faded. Modern research says dream recall is strongest right after waking, so this practice was neurological gold. By embracing this natural pause, the Vikings weren't just resting. They were tapping into their subconscious, letting it guide their decisions and spark their creativity. This mindset is what sets them apart. Today, we'd call that 3 a.m. waking insomnia and reach for a fix, a pill, an app, a glass of wine. The Vikings saw it as a gift, a time for clarity and connection. Sigurd might plan or pray, while Thyra checked the hall's safety. Their longhouses were built for this, with pathways for quiet movement and alcoves for privacy. It was a system that worked with their biology, not against it, giving them a mental edge that helped them conquer seas and build empires. As the fire's glow fades and Sigurd slips back into his second sleep, we follow the scent of wood smoke to another corner of the Viking world, where the physical spaces they crafted for rest reveal even more of their sleep wisdom. King Nut the Great stands in his new hall at Roskilde, overseeing every detail of his sleeping quarters. "Build my bed platform in the north corner," he tells his master carpenter. "Raised to escape drafts, but not so high that smoke disturbs my rest." His bed is a fortress of comfort, enclosed by carved wooden panels, draped with heavy wool curtains that create a pocket of absolute darkness. This isn't just luxury. It's a sleep chamber designed to cradle the body and mind in perfect rest, and it's a testament to how seriously the Vikings took their sleep. Nut's hall is a masterpiece of function, not just form. His bed is positioned just right, close enough to the hearth for warmth, far enough to avoid smoke. Those curtains don't just keep out the cold. They block every sliver of light, creating what sleep scientists call cave-like conditions. Darkness is the key to melatonin, the hormone that signals sleep, and modern research warns that even a hint of light, especially the blue glow of screens, can disrupt it. The Vikings had no such problems. Their world was free of light pollution, and their sleeping spaces doubled down on that darkness, giving their brains the full melatonin boost. Astrid, the wife of a Norwegian chieftain, takes this seriously. "The curtains must be thick enough to block a candle's light," she instructs her servants, and the archaeology backs her up. Digs at Jorvik and Hedeby show bed closets, early sleep pods with tight-fitting panels and heavy textiles. These spaces weren't just private. They were sensory voids, shutting out light, sound, and cold. Compare that to our bedrooms, with streetlights sneaking through blinds and the hum of electronics, and it's clear we're missing something. The Vikings crafted darkness like artists, and it paid off in deeper sleep. The bedding itself is where things get brilliant. Beds weren't hard planks but layered masterpieces. Straw or heather for insulation, topped with furs and wool that kept you warm while letting your body breathe. Modern science says a slight drop in core body temperature is crucial for deep sleep, and the Vikings' natural materials nailed it. Halfdan, the healer, had advice for this. In winter, bare furs close to the body with lighter wool above. In summer, just linen to stay cool. The Oseberg burial, possibly a queen's, even included a feather mattress, a luxury that cushioned the body and relieved pressure, something we spend hundreds on today. The longhouse itself was a sleep machine. Thick, double-layered timber walls, packed with insulation, muffled sound like a dream. While lower-ranking folks slept in open areas, the elite had bed closets for extra quiet. Modern research is clear. Noise, even subtle, disrupts sleep architecture. The Vikings minimized it without knowing the science. Air quality was another win. Despite the smoky hall stereotype, high-status longhouses had roof vents to draw smoke away and small openings in bed closets for fresh air. They even burned pine and birch, woods that release compounds with mild stress-reducing effects, like natural aromatherapy. Astrid's attention to detail, seasonal bedding, tight curtains, perfect hearth placement wasn't just about comfort. It was about working with the body's needs. Even the king's bed had symbolic weight, placed near his high seat, tying rest to authority. Security was key, too. King Harold Bluetooth's bed at Jelling was positioned for quick access to weapons and escape routes, easing the mind's need for safety, a must for deep sleep, as modern psychology confirms. As the hall settles into silence, we catch the scent of roasted venison and mead, drawing us to the Viking table, where their diet shaped their rest in ways we're only now understanding. Jarl Erik is hosting a midwinter feast in Trondelag. The table's heavy with roasted venison, smoked salmon, fermented dairy, and barley bread. Horns of mead and ale pass around. But here's the thing. This feast happens in the afternoon, well before sunset. As evening falls, lighter fare, nuts, dried berries, cultured milk, takes over. By the time sagas are told around the hearth, digestion is done, and the household retires without the burden of heavy food. This wasn't just tradition. It was a sleep strategy that modern science is now praising. The Vikings ate their biggest meals early, unlike the late-night feasts of later medieval courts. Modern chronobiology says eating close to bedtime disrupts sleep, as digestion raises body temperature and triggers reflux. By eating in the afternoon, the Vikings gave their bodies hours to process, sliding into rest without a hitch. Thyra, the shield maiden, put it bluntly, a warrior who feasts heavily before rest fights battles and dreams. She'd tell her guards to eat when the sun was high, advice that aligns with studies showing that a 3 to 4 hour gap between eating and sleeping boosts rest quality. Their diet was a sleep powerhouse. Fatty fish like salmon and herring, packed with omega-3s, improved REM sleep. Nuts, barley, and greens provided magnesium, calming neurotransmitters. Organ meats, especially liver, delivered B vitamins for melatonin and serotonin. Game meats and dairy gave tryptophan, a precursor to those hormones. Fermented foods, yogurt-like dairy, fermented fish, supported gut health, which modern research links to better sleep via the gut-brain axis. King Olaf Tryggvason's evening snack of cultured milk, honey, and hazelnuts was a sleep scientist's dream. Casein for slow tryptophan release, honey to help it reach the brain, and hazelnuts for magnesium. Alcohol was handled smartly. Mead and ale were drunk with afternoon meals, giving the body time to metabolize before bed. Modern science says alcohol fragments REM sleep, but the Vikings dodged this by timing their drinks early. Winter diets, heavy in preserved meats and fermented foods, were dense in vitamin D and magnesium, perfect for longer, deeper sleep. Halfdan the healer prescribed valerian in milk for restless sleepers, and vessel residues confirm the use of sleep-promoting herbs. Fasting, driven by lean winter months, aligned with modern research on intermittent fasting's circadian benefits. Clean spring water, not weak ale, kept them hydrated without nighttime bathroom trips. King Nut, ruling England and Denmark, stuck to Norse eating habits, avoiding the late feasts of Anglo-Saxon courts. His energy and clarity, noted by chroniclers, likely came from this discipline. As the feast winds down, we follow Halfdan to the herb garden, where the Vikings' botanical wisdom takes their sleep to another level. Halfdan moves through the royal herb garden at twilight, picking valerian, linden flowers, and chamomile for King Harold's evening drink. The king faces battle decisions tomorrow, he murmurs. So tonight, we prepare the sleep of clarity. He steeps the herbs with honey, serving them as sagas begin, ensuring their effects peak as Harold retires. This isn't folklore, it's a masterclass in using plants to enhance rest, one that makes modern sleep aids look crude. Archaeological digs show specialized gardens growing valerian, hops, and linden, plants with proven sedative properties. Valerian's valerianic acid calms GABA receptors, linden's flavonoids reduce anxiety, and hops compounds promote relaxation. Residue analysis from Osberg's vessels confirms these herbs were used regularly by elites. Thyra relied on them, yarrow and mint for alertness on night watches, valerian for deep sleep. This nuanced use shows a deep understanding, backed by modern studies showing synergistic effects, like valerian and hops together outperforming either alone. The Vikings' herbal prep was precise. Specialized vessels and strainers show careful dosing, not crude brews. Herbs were taken 1 to 2 hours before bed, aligning with modern pharmacology for optimal sleep onset. Adaptogens like ashwagandha, found in some settlements, reduced stress and cortisol, supporting rest. Seasonal shifts, stronger valerian in winter, milder chamomile in summer, matched changing sleep needs. Astrid taught her daughters to harvest herbs at peak potency. Practice modern research confirms. These herbal rituals were part of a broader wind-down, dim lighting, quiet sagas, mental preparation, creating an ideal pre-sleep routine. Jarl Erik saw herbs as vital to leadership. A Jarl who cannot rest cannot think clearly. Even bedding held traces of lavender and thyme, adding natural aromatherapy. This preventative approach, supporting the nervous system daily, beats our reactive pill popping. As Halfdan's herbs steep, we step into the training yard, where the Vikings' physical life fueled their rest. King Harald Hardrada rises before dawn, sword in hand, sweat steaming in the cold. At nearly 50, he's still a warrior, training with axe and spear until his tunic is soaked. A king's body must be as sharp as his mind, he tells his warriors, and that morning exertion earns him the night's rest. This isn't just about strength, it's about sleep, and the Vikings' active lifestyle gave them an edge we're only now appreciating. Harold's day front-loads physical tasks, training, then counsel and planning, letting his body wind down by evening. Modern science says morning exercise boosts sleep efficiency and deepens slow-wave sleep, the body's repair phase. Skeletal remains from Viking burials show dense bones and strong muscle attachments, proof of a life spent moving. Unlike later, sedentary kings, Viking elites stayed active, and it paid off in rest. Thyra's advice was clear: train hard when the sun climbs, rest when it descends. This matches chronobiology. Morning activity supports sleep-wake cycles, while evening exercise can disrupt them. Their activities were varied: weapons practice, hunting, rowing, games, engaging every muscle group. Archaeological sites show training areas for all of these, and modern research says diverse movement creates high sleep pressure, the need for deep rest. Outdoor exertion meant daylight exposure, regulating melatonin and circadian rhythms. Jarl Sigurd, fearsome into his 50s, trained mornings, sailed middays, and eased into lighter duties, setting up perfect evening rest. Seasonal shifts, harder summer work, lighter winter activity, mirrored natural rest cycles. Social bonding and training like group games cut stress hormones, boosting sleep. Halfdan advised balance. Neither too much nor too little exertion brings rest. Longhouses required walking between areas, adding small movements that modern science links to metabolic health and sleep. Astrid managed her household with morning tasks and afternoon planning, aligning with optimal sleep timing. Recovery practices, hot springs, steam baths, cold dips, activated the rest and digest system, enhancing sleep. King Nut's active schedule, despite ruling 2 kingdoms, kept him sharp, likely thanks to rest. As the training yard quiets, we sit by the fire with King Olaf, where the Viking mindset reveals another sleep secret. The winter storm howls outside, but King Olaf Tryggvason is calm. The snow builds high, he says, and the gods grant us rest. Let's use it wisely. He leans into the forced downtime, using it for sagas, discussion, and sleep, emerging sharper for spring campaigns. This acceptance of rest isn't just wisdom. It's what psychologists call radical acceptance, embracing reality without resistance, and it's a sleep superpower we've lost. The Havamal warns against night-long worrying. The unwise man is awake all night, tired by morning, troubles unchanged. This mirrors modern sleep psychology. Racing thoughts kill rest. But the Vikings had a fix. Thyra taught warriors to release the day's battles before bed, a practice like cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia. Evening rituals, playing taffel, listening to harps created buffer time, easing the mind into rest. The Norse belief in Wyrd, or fate, reduced rumination by accepting what couldn't be changed, a mindset modern studies link to better sleep. Dreams were sacred, seen as divine messages, giving sleep purpose and reducing anxiety. King Olaf's skaldic evenings shifted focus from stress, priming his mind for restful dreams. Halfdan's mindfulness trick, counting 50 breaths before sleep, cut cognitive arousal, speeding sleep onset. Communal evenings, sagas, music lowered cortisol through connection. Delegating nighttime duties, as Astrid did, created psychological safety for deep rest. Flexible sleep schedules, driven by seasons and needs, avoided the performance anxiety we feel. The night's spiritual weight, as a time when God spoke, made sleep meaningful. As Olaf retires, we join the household in sleep, where their communal arrangements weave the final thread. The Great Hall at Trondheim settles for the night. King Harald's curtained platform at the north end. Thyra and her shield maidens nearby, ready to protect. Warriors, servants, and guests arrange themselves by status, creating a living sleep system. This isn't just sharing space, it's sharing security, a communal approach that gave the Vikings deeper rest than our private bedrooms allow. Longhouses like those at Borg were designed for this, elevated platforms, curtained alcoves, pathways for quiet movement. The king slept deepest, surrounded by layers of vigilance. Modern science says protected sleepers get more slow-wave and REM sleep, and Thyra's words confirm it. We sleep in layers around our king, his rest secured by our ears. This mirrors hunter-gatherer groups, where central positions mean deeper rest. Communal warmth from one hearth plus body heat, stabilized temperatures, crucial for sleep in Nordic winters. Halfdan monitored breathing, catching health issues early, a benefit lost in private rooms. Privacy gradients, curtains, partial walls balanced intimacy and security. King Olaf's bed, with carved panels and curtains, gave status and safety. Synchronized sleep times, driven by shared light, aligned circadian rhythms. Astrid enforced this. The hall sleeps and wakes together. Saga-telling before bed primed minds for problem-solving dreams, as Jarl Sigurd's story choices show. King Nut's traveling household kept routines consistent, easing jet lag. Children sleeping near adults learned healthy rest habits, a developmental edge. As the hall sleeps, we stand with Harald Hardrada, tying it all together. Harald Hardrada stands at his longship's prow, returning from a trade expedition, alert and decisive despite weeks of strain. His resilience comes from sleep, mastered through Norse wisdom. The Vikings didn't stumble into great rest. They wove it from environment, diet, herbs, activity, mindset, and community, aligning with what science now calls optimal. Their dark, quiet sleep pods maximized melatonin. Early feasts, rich in omega-3s and magnesium, supported rest. Herbs like valerian eased them into sleep. Morning exertion built sleep pressure, while evening wind downs calmed the mind. Radical acceptance and sacred dreams cut anxiety. Communal sleep shared vigilance and warmth. These principles, harmony with light, biphasic rest, optimized environments, timed nutrition, gentle herbs, active days, calm minds, and social rhythms, offer lessons for our sleep-starved world. We can't live in longhouses, but we can dim screens, eat earlier, try chamomile, move in the morning, let go of worries, and sync sleep with loved ones. Thyra said it best. The warrior who fights sleep fights a lost battle. Skeletal remains show Viking elites lived sharper, longer lives, likely thanks to rest. King Olaf told his son, "Even Thor must rest his hammer." Sleep is wisdom. That's their legacy. A life aligned with biology, where sleep fuels greatness. Reclaim that wisdom one restful night at a time. Thanks for joining me on The Human Wild. What's your biggest sleep struggle? And which Viking trick are you trying first? Drop a comment, hit that subscribe button, and let's keep exploring the wild, human art of living well. Sleep tight, and I'll see you in the next adventure.